Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Girl Got Goals podcast, episode number 13, Actionable Ways to Achieve Your Goals. So last week we talked about clearly defining your goals, visualizing, conceptualizing, dreaming big, setting smart goals for the new year. And this week we're going to talk about real life, practical ways that you can, specific ways to take action on your goals. And these are just a few things that Kimberly and I have kind of come up with over the last week when we were doing our own homework on dreaming of what we want to do with our lives in 2025. So we just wanted to hop on today and share with you just a few things that can kickstart your goals for 2025. So I have my beautiful co-host, Kimberly Blaylock, IFBB Bikini Pro. I'm Marcy Allen, Women's Fitness Specialist. And we're going to get started today. It'll be our last episode of the new year. So we're looking forward to 2025. How are you today, Kimberly?
I'm doing good.
Bright and early as always.
Yeah, I'm not an early person.
I was going to say, we're such morning people. Drinking my pre-workout as we speak.
I started mine, but I stopped. Yeah, I think I said 2 words to Carrie since I've been up.
You're like, can't talk, got a podcast.
He was still in the bed after I'd already got up and let the dog out, fed the dog, made my pre-workout, got his coffee ready, took the garbage out, washed my face. Yeah. I go in there and he's still in the bed. And I'm like, look, I almost finished my vision board while you was in bed again last night.
I see a theme here. I see Carrie relaxing and you busting your ass.
I love you, babe.
I'm just kidding, Carrie. I know you work hard and you do a lot. We love you.
Yeah, but right. I was excited. I almost got mine finished. So,
yay. I haven't even started mine yet. I'm still in the conceptualizing phase. And you'll know why in a minute when we get to talking about everything, because I have like a process and I'm not done with my process yet, but 2024 is not over yet. So I still have time.
Yes.
And I have some time off coming up, time off from work. So that'll be good downtime to be able to be crafty.
Yeah. And mine was, when we get into all that, mine was kind of more simple this year. So I'll explain.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get right into it with the reason mine is taking so long. One of the ways that I'm taking action steps to really clarify my goals and get started for 2025 is visualizing success, with a vision board like we discussed. But in order to really capitalize on my creativity and my vision board, I needed to clarify my goals a little more. And because you don't want to have too many, you don't want to have too many to where you can't focus. And so I have a lot of big goals that I want for my life, but I'm like, okay, what goals do I specifically want to focus on 2025? So in my vision board course, she suggested to write your top 10 goals for 10 days. Every morning, wake up or whatever time you do it and write your top 10 goals without looking back at the previous day. Just what you want your life to look at the end of 2025 next year. What do you want to accomplish? Write it as if it had already happened. And so I think I'm on today's day 7. So I've still got 3 more days. But I noticed about day 5, my focus started to shift a little bit into more, not so much what specific task I wanted to accomplish, but what was my motivation behind it? What emotional driver was behind that desire to achieve my goal? So it became less about achieving success with completing the goal and more about what psychological need am I trying to fulfill with that goal? Like, what is accomplishing this feat going to do for me? And so my top A number 1, I always pick on Kimberly for saying A number 1. My A number 1 goal was winning a first place overall bikini competition in a regional show, because that's like the first step to completing my larger goal of eventually winning my IFBB Pro card. First, I need to win a regional show. You don't have to, but that's like a goal of mine. And then you win a national show, and that's what gets you your IFBB Pro card. And then your goal is, hopefully to complete a pro show or win a pro show. And so I was like, okay, so I step on stage and I win first place overall at a regional bikini competition. What does that matter? Who cares? In the grand scheme of things, it's not going to change the world, right? And so I was like, well, why do I want to win a show so bad? Why is this bikini competition so important to me? So I really started like digging in. And the one thing that I learned was that my goal is not really specifically to win first place in a bikini competition. It's to become the strongest, sexiest, and healthiest I've ever been in my entire life. And to me, that's what winning first place in that competition represents. It represents elevating myself mentally and physically. And so I've learned a lot of things through writing these goals and trying to get to the root of it, because I feel like that's really necessary when you are talking about clarifying your goals and making a vision board. It's like visualizing yourself, how you feel in that moment. And that's really important in manifesting it into real life. So that's one of the approaches I've taken to really put an action behind my goals, is really clarity.
I think, funny you say that, because I had always wanted to win a show too. And for me, I think yours is better, but it was that I needed that validation. Like, if I'm going to go to nationals and I want to try to win my pro card, you'll hear a lot of influencers talk about, oh, well, first, before you even think about going to nationals, you should at least win a show. Like, that validated that you were good enough to go. But I was placing always in the top 3 at a regular show. So did that mean that I was not good enough to go to nationals? I won first place a couple of times. But to actually win a show, you have to win in the younger category. And I think I'm trying to think. I might have came in first like a couple of times. And I did win overall in the 40 and over once. But a lot of times, even at our local show, you don't even have an overall because they don't have more than one class. So you didn't really even have the chances of doing the overall. That was the only time. But it's still kind of like what you're saying, to be the strongest, healthiest person. But I felt like I needed to be, my entire life, I've never felt good enough for anything or at anything. And so I guess I just needed that validation. And for me, it didn't happen. So I wasn't validated until this past year. And that did drive me, because once I made it this past year, now it makes me want to do more. Like, it made me feel like I belonged. And before then, I just felt like I just was questioning myself.
I was going to say, did you get that validation with that win? Because a lot of times people get the win and it doesn't really change anything about who you are on the inside. It just switches to another goal that you feel the need to drive toward.
Yeah. I will admit, I've told Carrie a couple of times, sometimes I forget now. I had such a hunger for that. And now it's like, you've accomplished that. But it's almost still like it was a dream, like it was still hard to believe. But I have just been hungered to do another show. That last night, when I'm doing my vision board and thinking about shows, then the devil creeps in, because I had not even thought about, well, a lot of people quit on a high. Like, that weekend was a high between winning my pro show or winning my card, winning overall, coming second in my first pro show, like, why not stop now? Because what if I go do some other shows and then I bomb all of them? And I was like, don't think like that. I've been so excited to do these shows. Then now all of a sudden my mind started being negative again. So I had to get out of my head last night.
Yeah. Like you said, there's a lot of people that are fear of failure. They'll win their pro cards and then they'll just stop, because once you have your pro card, for those of you that don't know, you never lose it. You are an IFBB pro. You have your pro card. You can put those initials behind your name. It's kind of like a degree. Once you've earned it, you have it. And so a lot of people just stop and never go any further. Now, you on the same weekend went ahead and competed in a pro show because they had one the very next day. And it was very, very easy to go see where you placed amongst professionals. And you did very, very well in your first pro show. Some people take a year off and prepare for that pro debut. You jumped right into it, which I think was smart, because then you don't have time to like overthink it, which is another good action item, is like when you have momentum on your goals, just keep going, whether you're scared or not. Sometimes don't overthink it and just take that next step.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it was like the next day. I mean, it was at the same hotel. All I had to do was go to sleep and get up and do it again, and you're on cloud nine from the day before. So for me, it made sense. Now, when I'm backstage and there was another girl back there, she said, oh, yeah, I won last year and my coach wanted me to do the show the next day, because that one's, usually the next day. And she didn't do it. She was like, I told him I wanted to go out and celebrate with my family. Well, it was just me and my husband. I mean, I was proud he was there, but I was going to get to go eat a hamburger a day earlier. It just, for me, didn't make sense. I mean, yes, we went down to the restaurant and he sat there and ate in front of me, but at that moment I didn't care. I was like, I just got to go to sleep one more time.
Right.
And then I get to see where I'm going to place. And then I know where to go from there. If I had not done it, I feel like I would still be sitting here with, do I add up? What do I need to work on? And I was able to see where I was against other women my age in that division that's been competing, and get the feedback from the judge of what I need to work on. Now I know what my goal is this year. If not, it would be harder for me to be sitting here with this podcast and going over what my vision and goal is this year, because I wouldn't really know.
Right. You wouldn't know how you measured up, because I guess when you reach nationals, you're kind of a big fish in a small pond. And then when you hit the pro category, you're starting over from scratch all over again, kind of a small fish in a big pond, so to speak. And so it's like a new level. And I think a lot of people, once you set a big audacious goal and you reach it, then it's kind of like, what's next, and sometimes you'll get stuck in, well, what do I do now? Or how do I compare? And one thing I wanted to tell people was, don't be scared to suck at something new. When we started, whatever it was that we have never done before, it's new to us. We don't have any muscle memory. We don't have any knowledge. Like, you're going to suck at something new doing it for the first time. There might be natural talent there, a propensity towards being that, but it's okay to suck at something new.
Yeah. Well, even us doing this podcast.
Yeah. Because we definitely are not professionals. We definitely do not have good technological backgrounds. We have technical issues every week. We were just talking about that before the podcast. It seems like something with our equipment is going wrong every week, and it's something different. It's not like we're making the same mistake every time.
And sometimes it's just as stupid as I didn't plug in my microphone.
So we appreciate you who are listening with us as we learn and grow, as we suck at something new. But just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and try something new for the first time this year.
Yeah. And honestly, because that is hard for me, but I've really been trying to, and like doing this podcast was a lot for me and you. But when I look at, okay, so let's go back. even though we've been friends and it took a while, like for me, you always seemed more outgoing, more putting yourself out there than me. And I would look up to that. So asking you to do this with me was like a security blanket because I felt like I'm the one that's not as outgoing. I'm the one that don't do a whole lot. And you seem like this person that's, oh, if I do it with her though, because she's so good that it's
I've
going
got
to
you
help me.
fooled.
I know. I mean, as far as being outgoing, but you never know how other people are looking at you. I feel like if I fail at something, people are talking about me, or if I put myself out there, people are talking. And I'm realizing that they're probably not. Like if we fail at this or we don't do another one, it's going to bother us, but is it going to affect anybody else in the whole wide world? Not really. We'll be the
Yeah.
ones that later regret that we didn't do it, or at least try, not
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah. I can't tell you how long it's been since I've wanted to like do a podcast or, I started a blog a long time ago, but nobody reads anymore. It's all video. So, podcasts are the new blogs basically. And I didn't want to do it by myself because like you said, I was afraid it would be just me, but having somebody with you. And that's another good action item is incorporate someone who has a similar goal with you, so that you're not alone. That, it kind of shares the burden a little bit and it gives you somebody for one to hold accountable. Like if we didn't say, hey, every Sunday morning at 8:30, we're going to get together and podcast, then it kind of just puts it out into the ethereal that, oh, someday I might sit down at my desk and record a podcast. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty busy and there's a lot of other things in my life that take precedence and family members competing for my time, and things like that, especially as women, we all understand that. And so to have an accountability partner is huge. And I think that's why a lot of people hire personal trainers or nutrition coaches or whatever. I think it's 90% accountability. It's 90% having someone expecting you at a certain time or telling you what to do. Sometimes we bounce ideas off of each other and it's like, I'm having a brain fart. I can't think right now. I need you to just tell me what to do. Not that we don't know what to do, but we need that push. And, looking back, I wanted to tell you this and share it with our listeners is that, my goal for 2024, my only goal, I've been preparing since October of 2023 was to get on stage in 2024. That was my only goal. I wanted to prep. I wanted to lose enough weight to be stage lean, which I never have accomplished. And I wanted to get on stage and do well at a regional bikini show. Well, I was not able to achieve that goal. And so when I started setting goals for 2025, I was like, well, shit, I didn't accomplish anything in 2024. I failed. I had one goal, I didn't accomplish it, and I failed. And that sucks. And it really made me kind of sad. But then I was like, you know what? I started a podcast in 2024. Even though that wasn't on my mind, like on my list of goals, that wasn't something I said, this is what I'm going to dedicate my year to. At the end of the year, a little birdie came to me and said, hey, let's start a podcast. And I was like, let's do it. And then we were busy. I was scared. We kind of pushed it off just a little bit because you were competing. You were getting ready for that big national show where you won your pro card. And so like at the end, I guess it was like September-ish, we just kind of jumped into this thing. And I was like, thank God we did, because at the end of the year when I'm setting goals for 2025 and I look back and I didn't achieve the one goal I set, I would not have had this podcast to feel proud of,
Right.
and to look back on and say, I did accomplish something this year. So
Go ahead.
now, I was just going to say, sometimes it may be something that wasn't on your radar, but the opportunity presents itself. So don't procrastinate.
Yeah.
That's
and even with that, we didn't. So that's kind of I guess something that we could be proud of and tell other people to think about doing, when we were bouncing it back and forth of when to start, what do we want to do? And I'm like, I got so much going on with my show between every minute of my day was taken with everything that was going on there towards the end. Cause this, I think about when it came up towards the end, but we're like, okay, we both don't want to not do it. We both don't want to just talk about it, because we had talked about it in the past.
Oh yeah, like a year ago.
And so we're like, it's going to be after my show, but let's set a date when.
Yeah.
And we picked a day. And so that made me know that I couldn't even procrastinate after my show. Because like you said, we're holding each other accountable. I told you, yes, after my show. And then you were like, what day?
And you know why? Because I was scared shitless. And I was like, how far can I push this out? I think I was the one, even though you were busier, we were both in prep, but you actually had a show on the books that you were preparing for. And it was way more, pressing. And I was like, how far can I push this out? Because I'm totally scared to do this. It was like, she's asked me, I'm going to take the opportunity, but how can I procrastinate, on this? And you were the one that was actually like, no, I don't want to wait. Let's get this done. Let's start. Even if we suck, and I think we even said, even if we don't publish it, let's just get together and start talking, because we need to get used to like hearing our own voices and seeing ourselves on camera, which we haven't released yet. I have created the YouTube channel, guys. It is out there, but there are no videos.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
That's another baby step for 2025, to
Right.
be okay with how I look every morning without getting up and having to.
Yeah, no makeup early Sunday morning.
Marcy asked me to get up too early to be too pretty for y'all.
Right. You'll just have to see our ugly selves. That's okay.
I normally get up early anyway, and I was thinking, okay, can I make that something that's not a big deal on Sunday? But so I'm going through my head. And the only reason why, we all know I'm working on my sleep, and don't worry, that's on my list. But because Carrie's usually gone to the camp, especially this time of year, I work on Saturdays. So when I get off at 5, I go to the gym, I do my workout, and I come home, and I like to, like settle down, eat my dinner, watch TV. And it's the only time that I have that it's quiet, it's me. And I just like to kind of stay up at that point and watch TV and catch up on things. And then, because I know I don't have to work Sunday. And so I would usually just sleep in. So that's the only reason why that's been rough for me to get out of that habit. I'm just so used to staying up on Saturday night so that I can just use Sunday as a sleep-in day. And normally sleep in for me is like 8, but if we're going to meet at 8:30, I got to get up at a normal time. So I'm not necessarily a lazy person, but that's why I just like to stay at like really late. I'm talking like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Good
Usually
God.
is. Yeah. I have been known. Yeah. But I'm more of a night person anyway. So I fight that during the week because of having to go to work. So knowing that I don't have to usually on Sunday get up and do anything, that's why I do it. I know it don't make sense.
No, it makes total sense.
I guess I just feel like I can catch up on TV. I can, and when I'm not on prep, that's when I like to pop popcorn and eat and
Yep.
have my little me time. So anyway.
So don't procrastinate. That's the point of that.
Yes.
Get her done. But I do want to thank you for pushing me to achieve this goal in 2024, because it was the only goal I achieved. It would have been a really sad year. So I'm taking this time to really reflect and visualize success for 2025 and really like set maybe more goals, than just one, but I really want to set myself up for success and achieve something in 2025. And
well, let's throw it out there too. I don't think you should feel like you failed, because even though you didn't ultimately get to step on stage, you did lose weight. You have maintained. It's not like you just gave up on it. You're still going to the gym. You're still doing your routines. You're still striving to be better. Even though sometimes your weight might, stay around the same, that's better than you gained weight. So there's little small-ish, in there that you can say, well, I did do this and I did. You might not have reached that ultimate. And I think that's going to happen some years. So, if we say, well, we don't reach the goal, we failed, then that's going to be a reoccurring thing throughout our life. And maybe we shouldn't say it that way, Marcy.
I'm a complete failure. No, maybe we should say, I didn't achieve the goal in the way I expected.
That sounds better.
Yeah, which kind of brings me to another point I had listed in my notes, is that I've learned through life that a lot of times the things I desire come to me in ways I never expected. So I'm very hesitant to say, and I know this goes against the SMART goals because you got to be very specific, but I'm very hesitant to say I'm going to X, Y, Z. Like I said, I want to win first place overall at a regional show. That's very specific. And like you said, my overall goal is to be an IFBB pro. You reached IFBB pro status without winning first place overall in a regional show. It doesn't have to happen that way. There's been several occasions in my life where I had an ultimate goal that I wanted to reach. And a lot of times it has to do more with a feeling, an emotional state, a psychological need. And that need was met in another way that I didn't expect. And so, yes, I lost 16 pounds in 31 weeks. I still have 20 pounds to go. So I reached half my goal, but did I learn a lot of lessons along the way? Yes. Did I learn a lot of things about my body? Yes. Did I establish a lot of amazing habits that are going to carry me through the next several years? Yes. Am I on my way to achieving pro status? I believe so, because in order to be a professional, you have to first act like a professional. Your professionalism comes before that title. And so I'm learning how to live my life as if I am already a professional. So I appreciate you saying that, because it does help me kind of put it in a different perspective. Even though I haven't achieved that win yet, I am hopeful that it's coming in the future, and I have made strides to achieve that. And it's taking longer than expected, which is disheartening, which I think a lot of women can relate to when it comes to a fitness journey or a weight loss journey or a health journey. I started my overall holistic health journey 7 years ago, and if you'd asked me 7 years ago if I thought it would take 7 years, hell no. Everything today is microwave success. It's overnight, it's viral, it's whatever. But in actuality, it just takes waking up every day and putting one foot in front of the other with a good action plan. And when you do have failures, quote unquote failures, you learn from it and you back up and you reassess and you just make a different plan going
Well, I
forward.
think what makes it totally not a failure is if when you wasn't able to step on stage, if you would have said, done with this, I'm over it, and you just would have went the other way and put all of that weight back on and got to where you was 7 years ago, that quote unquote would be a failure.
True.
You didn't, even though you didn't reach this particular goal that you threw out in the universe, you still are making strides towards it. So it's not necessarily a failed goal. The goal just got moved a little further away. I don't look at that as a failure.
It's a disappointment.
True.
But not a failure. You're right. The only way you
True.
fail is if you quit.
Correct. And you are making strides every day towards that. That would have been like me, I was so freaking close 2 years in a row. And what if after last year when I came in and I'm sure some things were my fault, but we all know that I was brought in too lean, and I come close to saying, I'm just done. I got third. That's the closest I got. Who else can say that? Not everybody can say that, blah, blah, blah. And I could have gave up. And it only took one more prep. And, and sometimes when I think back about, well, what if I'd have just said, I would have never got to where I'm at. And so I feel like sometimes we have a tendency of doing that. And I know I have too, but I'm trying to be better about that too.
Yeah, I think,
So,
what is it? What they say? I think it's Thomas Edison. They said, how many tries did it take him to create the light bulb? It was over 1,000. How many of us are willing to get up and try something again up to 1,000 times? I don't know many people who have that kind of stick to itiveness in
mm-hmm.
them, that kind of fight, that kind of drive. But visualizing your success and having that vision board really kind of can remotivate you every morning. It's kind of like a fight within yourself to have that vision, begin with the end in mind. You know, they have that, I think it's Stephen Covey that says, begin with the end in mind. Every morning, wake up and begin your day with the end in mind. You know, how do you want your day to look? What's that next actionable step? What's that one thing you can do to not procrastinate on your goal and take action today to drive you toward that ultimate goal? You know, whether we
Mm-hmm.
reach it in a year, you know, in 2025 or not, like you said, it's making those strides to become better. Because, I mean, ultimately, isn't that what we want? We all just want to be a little better today than we were yesterday, and we all want to leave the world a little better place than we found it. And so,
Yeah,
if we are striving for our goals, whether we reach them ultimately or not, we are becoming better. So
right.
that's kind of like a goal within
Well, and if you
itself.
don't put that goal out there for yourself to do, then you don't have, you're not going for something. Even if, I mean, I would want to say, I mean, we want to reach these goals, but I don't want people to feel like, because I feel like sometimes we're going to have a goal out here. I like to have a goal that almost seems unattainable because it gives me something to go for. Whether I ever get to that, every day is a step to that. And then it falls back to, I seen this the other day and I was going to choose a different time, but I'm going to throw this out there now. So, and I told Carrie when he came home the other day, I was like, okay, I haven't typed this out yet, but it's going on my board. So my goal is to die with memories, not dreams.
Ooh, that is a good one.
Yeah,
I'm going to steal that.
please do. So I was like, yes, because we should have these dreams and aspirations, but if we don't make goals towards them, we're not making memories. And everything that we do to get to that is a memory. Every show that I've done, me and Carrie can sometimes sit back and we talk about it, and we talk about this one and how we felt. And so all of those were steps to get to the ultimate, but they're all memories along the ways. I have no regret. When I die at this point, I feel like I won't have any regret towards going for my pro card. I have all of these memories that him and I have done together.
That's beautiful. That gets me kind of emotional, you know, thinking about all the times. I mean, because there were times you went and you didn't place well, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and to say I went, it was a bad experience at the time. I didn't place like I wanted to. All that blood, sweat, tears, money. It costs so much money to do these shows, effort, you know, and to finally achieve your goal and look back and say I have no regrets, even on the years that, you know, didn't go as planned. It's still a memory, and that's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't understand it. And like you say, I could have came back, especially that year that I did back to back and did not even place, and neither one of them got second call outs. And that was the first time ever. I was like, okay, Lord, you were bumping me down, because even from the first time I went to nationals, I got first call outs. So that particular year was the first year. And she had talked me into doing 2 national shows within like 6 weeks. It happened both times. And I will admit there was a part of me that wanted to be like, okay, I'm done. But then I didn't want to go out that way either, because I am stubborn.
Yeah, you
But
could have been like, maybe this isn't meant for me.
correct.
Maybe I'm not meant for bikini competitions, and maybe I'm not good enough, you know, and you could have given up.
Yeah. And but when I think back, it's like I told you last week when I went that one year, and that girl's talking backstage, and it was like something come over me. I knew that wasn't my year. And even though those years I thought they were, evidently the Lord had a different plan. I feel like sometimes in our mind we have a plan and He has a plan, but we're going to accomplish those things on His time, not our time. So I had to step back for a minute and realize, okay, maybe the Lord's knocking me for a reason. Maybe there's a reason I wasn't supposed to this year. And I had to look at it like that, and not that I failed, but that in the grand scheme of things, I was supposed to win at a different time.
So, share with us some of the actionable items that you used throughout that time when it seems so dark and so impossible and like you wanted to give up and you wanted to quit. What did you do to implement action items to achieve the ultimate goal, which you have achieved this past year?
Ooh, you didn't prepare me for that, Marcy.
Off the cuff, baby.
Ooh.
You got to dig deep.
Well, the first thing that comes to my head is probably going to sound strange, but I am a very headstrong person, and I feel like I go through emotions. So when it happens to begin with, I feel defeated. I just am upset. I feel down on myself. I'll go through a dark place. And then I'm like, well, I don't want that to defeat me. Other people are looking at me. Then I feel determined. Then I get pissed off. And the ultimate is once I reach the pissed off stage, for me, that brings motivation. When I'm in the gym, I'm thinking about how pissed off I am. Oh, they didn't think my glutes were big enough. Put some more weight on there, Carrie. Put more weight on there. I get to 10 reps. I'm like, I could do 2 more. It's this just pissed off determination. And I do have to dig deep for that. And I know that I've got a friend that asked me, how do you do that? I wish I could explain it. I don't know how to explain it, but I just get pissed off and determined. And I would say the softer side of that is my husband. You know, his little sweet soul told me the other day that was the most proud that he's ever been. But I can remember times of getting in the bed, and because I've always felt bad on myself, I so much wanted to achieve this for him to be proud of me. And I know that I should have been, and I am proud of myself, don't get me wrong, but to reach that goal, to feel like that he would be able to say, my wife did this, and that to make him proud of me was the ultimate push.
Yeah. So it's almost like an external motivator. So you had first the internal motivation, which was the drive to succeed, the I'll show them, and I think that's a lot of like rags to riches stories. I love those movies where you have like the underdog that nobody expects to win, that doesn't really have the natural talent, that doesn't have any of the resources, and like the Karate Kid, and they come from out of nowhere in this like small amount of time, and they succeed at something huge that nobody thinks that they can. Well, I think it's that internal drive that I'm going to show them that heart. You had that heart, that internal motivation. And then you had the external motivation with an amazing support system from your husband, someone that you didn't want to let down, someone that holds you accountable, like we said, some people, which you had a coach too, but you didn't care about that coach like you care about your husband, so finding that internal drive, what motivates you internally. It's not the same for everyone,
Right.
It's for me, I understand what you say when you're in the gym and you say I find that pissed off. For me, it's not really a pissed off. It's a strength. It's I'm listening to heavy metal music, and it's like aggressive, pissed off music, but it's not like I'm pissed off at someone. It's that I'm going to be the baddest mammer jammer in here. I'm going to lift more weight than any other woman in this gym right now, and it's not to be better than anyone else. It's just to feel strong within myself.
It's got to be an internal motivation, whether you're saying like what you, and when I say I'm lifting pissed off, and that's not every time, but that's just how I grunt, okay. So like here lately, I've been doing on the V squat. I think I've done it with you, but I like to do it backwards on the V squat and do more of a sumo squat. Sometimes I'll do RDLs. that's a heavy on your shoulders anyway. Matter of fact, I got where it rubbed the skin off on me because that thing's heavy to begin with. I, I'm doing 320 to 350 pounds. So,
which is like 3 times your body weight.
yeah. So when I get, it's easy sometimes just to be like, oh, this is heavy. I have to dig deep to just be like, like you'll hear people in there grunt. I'm trying not to necessarily grunt, but it's sometimes just that, oh, I'm going to do this. You have to dig deep to do that kind of weight. It's not something that you just, I could pick up some 10 pounds and be like, oh, but when you're
Right.
doing that kind of weight and it's sitting on your shoulders, you need to really be pushing from your legs. There's, just that mind. I have to really dig deep down in my mind to be, and I think about getting on stage. I think about that goal. So for other people, it might be, something else, but I'm thinking about, this is growing my tie-in. This is growing my glutes. And it's just this internal of, sometimes I'll visualize myself doing the back pose.
And what you want your glutes to look like in that
Yeah.
moment. I do the same exact thing. Yes. I visualize the end,
Yeah.
and that's what they're talking about. We're visualizing being on stage. Well, that takes many hours in the gym with that amount of force producing on the glutes to be able to step on stage and have that kind of result. And not everybody's going to have a bodybuilding, we have that in common, so we understand. Right. But visualize yourself in that bikini on the beach, or visualize yourself at your child's wedding and you're in that beautiful mother of the bride dress, or whatever the goal is. Visualize yourself walking across the stage with your diploma. Every time you hit those hard moments, and, sometimes I think in those hard moments, we might have a tendency to kind of feel victimized or sorry for ourselves, or this sucks, and I think anger is a good cover-up emotion. Getting pissed off is a good way to kind of snap yourself out of that woe is me mentality and kind of push through that moment, because it is only a moment and it's only going to last a short amount of time, and then you're going to move on to something else. And so that's a really good thing, is that visualizing in that moment, not how much you're suffering, but how much you're going to succeed when you reach that goal. That's awesome.
Which, look, I got another quote for that. So my other quote on my vision board, you're going to love this one too. It says, we suffer one of two things, either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. You got to choose discipline versus regret, because discipline weighs ounces and regret weighs tons.
Ooh. So true. You got to choose your hard.
Yeah. So deep, right?
Yeah.
But, getting into what you were saying, about the diploma or the bathing suit, or I've seen people buy dresses and hang up of, this is the goal I'm going to get in. That's a vision board. You're looking at every day. Buy that bikini that you can't fit in right now that's cute and you want it, and say, I'm going to get in it by summertime. Put the thing on.
Right.
Whether it fits or it don't fit, and visualize it on yourself. And then, I know this is terrible, but get pissed off. Get pissed off at all the people that said you can't do it. Get pissed off at the people that said you're overweight. Get pissed off at the people that said you're never going to make it. You're never going to be anything. You're not going to get your education. You're this. I would think about all the times that I was put down and made to feel less than. And I just want to prove that I am. I spent so many years of thinking I wasn't good enough. I'm trying not to call people out, but there's just been close people. You're like this person. You're like this person. I was always the black sheep. I was always this. And it just became that even if they never believe it, I'm going to prove to myself. I'm going to prove to my husband. I'm going to prove to my kids I am somebody. And I think that's just what my goal has been through this journey. And for some reason, for me, it was hitting the stage to overcome my fears, to overcome not feeling enough. And then that turned into other things of finding discipline in my life, finding balance in my life, becoming strong, growing, confident. These are all some of my words for the year, but that's where that came from. And I had to get to the point that I was pissed off to prove to them and to myself that I can do this. And even
Yeah.
if I fail, at least I tried. And I didn't let y'all sit over here and beat me down of what I couldn't do.
Yeah. That brings up 2 points that come to mind. So in the vision board course I'm doing, I know I've mentioned I feel like I've broken record one time at band camp, over and over in the vision board course. Anyway, she said that you're only going to change to the level of your disgust with your current situation. You almost have to get disgusted with where you are currently to be uncomfortable enough to want to do the hard work that it takes to change. But like you said, disciplines ounces, regrets weighs tons. And so you choose your heart every day. Do you want to wake up and choose to accomplish your action items on your plan to reach your goal and it be a little hard? Or do you want to get to the end of your life and look back and never have achieved that thing that's inside of you and you don't have any more time left to accomplish that goal and feel that weight of regret on you? And
Yeah.
then the second thing is that it's who you become in the process. So it's not that you won your IFBB Pro card. I mean, we can see it behind you for those of you when we get our YouTube video up. It's hanging on your wall. It's a physical representation of the person you became through that 7 years of competition. And it's not that you had the best body on stage that day. That was true. That was why you were awarded the card. But it was you were able to wake up every morning and do your cardio. It was you had the discipline to go to the gym and push that kind of weight on the machine to grow those glutes. It was you decided that you were going to eat according to your plan that your coach gave you in order to lose the weight. It wasn't about, at the end of the day, each item. It was about the tenacity. It was about the courage. It was about the discipline. It was all these characteristics on the way to reaching your goal that makes you a better person. And so that kind of brings us back full circle to, I talk about failing and not achieving my goal this year. I became a better person in the process, and that's only going to be better for me. So I just wanted to say that to encourage people to set the goals and to wake up every morning and do one item every day to reach your goals. Even though you may not succeed on completing the task, you are succeeding at becoming better every day.
Correct. And the things that you've learned along the way, you said that a while ago, you didn't give up. So that's not necessarily a failure. And you've learned so much and you're such a better person. That doesn't mean that you have to give up on that goal. That can still be your goal for next year, which.
And it is.
Exactly. Well,
Right.
We were going to talk about vision goals, but let me throw this out there just a tad. I'm also going to make a dream board. So a vision board is usually like 6 to 12 months. That's going to be, what I do this year, or, if I was going to do a show this summer, but I'm not, but just say it was, then I would have, a vision board and a goal for that. But I feel like I'm in the time in my life where I have dreams, and that's going to be my dream board, because I want to, what this year's going to be is the stepping stones for me doing Masters Nationals. That's my dream now. Well, that's not going to be until 2027. So that's
Masters Olympia.
Yeah. So I'm hoping they'll go to every year, but right now it's every other year. So they're having it this year. As much as I would love to, not, 2025, as much as I would love to do 2025, I don't think, is it a realistic goal? Maybe, maybe not, but it's just not in the cards. money wise, time wise, because where is it at this year?
I think it's Tokyo, Japan.
Tokyo. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's a long way to go.
Correct. And a lot of money, and I'm just not prepared. I rather set up to where it's perfect. So it just doesn't fit in that timeline. So the next one I could do is 2027. So I have to have a goal this year, and this year is I want to grow my upper glutes, which was what my feedback was. I'm going to work on myself, but my dream board is going to be that I have to win in the 40s. I have to come in first place in a pro show before I can even qualify to go. So
Right.
2026 is going to be the year that I will start that. So this year is more of just a growing. So it could be some, I guess I'll go into all of that to say, sometimes your goal could be further out. It could be that this year I'm not necessarily going to probably hit a goal. I have words and working on myself, just who I am and growing as a person this year. Yes, I want to
That's
grow my glutes, but I want to grow as a person.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into our next point, which is breaking down larger goals. You may have, like you said, a dream that it'll take 5 or 10 years to accomplish. Well, you're not going to want to set that up as a 5 or 10 year plan. You need to break that down into smaller steps. So you can take a 12-month goal and break it down into 30 days. And then at the end of 30 days, look back over your plan, reassess, see your progress, and then set a plan for the next 30 days and set an appointment with yourself every month to kind of reassess that. Because like your goal, Masters Olympia 2027, that's obviously 2 years away. And so it's not really feasible for you to have a 2025 plan to get to 2027, so you're going to have to obviously break it down, like you said, into growing your upper glutes, which was your feedback. It's what you need to be competitive on the pro stage in 2026 to win a show. And so, your plan's going to look really different for 2025 and then different for 2026 and then ultimately achieving your dream in 2027. So that's a perfect example of eating the elephant one bite at a time, taking your goals, breaking it down into small actionable steps, reassessing every 30 days. Don't just set the plan. Don't just set it and forget it. This ain't a crock pot. You got to actually work that and make those goals attainable in smaller steps. Because like we talked about in our previous episode, when we're talking about dreaming and goal setting, that motivation is going to drive you. Achieving one small step at a time, one bite at a time, is going to give you the confidence, the motivation, and the drive to keep putting one foot in front of the other instead of just relapsing into not bad habits necessarily, but just relapsing into old habits. It's so easy to go back to ordinary life as we've been living it for so long because it's comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something that came up that I wanted to mention, talking about, our vision board and, going into the new year. So it really didn't dawn on me. I told y'all last week that I never really did a vision board. A lot of times I just had goals within my head of things I wanted to do. And not realizing that really I have a vision board every month, which is my calendar.
Yeah, that's good.
So I have a desk-sized calendar. So I know we don't have our YouTube up. Y'all don't know where I'm at, but I have a she shed. And yes, it's in my house, so I can call it a she shed if I want to. My kids are like, Mama, you can't call it that because it's in the house. I said, I can call it what I want to.
That's right.
You can call it my makeup room. You can call it my
It's a babe cave.
Yep. You see my sign. It's my babe cave.
Babe cave.
But I have a desk in here that I put my makeup on at. My wonderful husband put me a mirror up with the lights around it. So this is my room. So I have a calendar, and I even write stupid stuff that you would know. I know we podcast every Sunday, but guess what? When it's a new month, I put on Sunday podcast and the time. I know that I train my client most of the time, unless she's got something and I got something. We train now on Tuesday, Wednesday, but I write her name on Tuesday, Wednesday. If she tells me ahead of time, oh, I need Thursday instead, I write that. I go to the gym on Mondays. No, you think, well, you're going to the gym. Why do you write it? I don't know. But every day I look at this. And if I write it on there, write my doctor's appointment, I write what I got with the kids. But I'm looking at it and I've wrote down I'm going to the gym. So guess what? 99.9% of the time, because I wrote it in on that day, I'm doing it because I wrote it down.
You made an appointment with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And I never really looked at it that way. It's just, I've been doing this for years. Even with other things in my life, I'm going to the kids' ball games. I would get their schedule. I write it down and I would know which ones that I can go to and which ones I can't. And I would say, I'm going to this one. Then once it became where it fell with like in my gym stuff, okay, I'm going to the gym that morning because I'm going to their ball game that evening. And I made myself work around that. So technically, I guess I've been doing a vision board on my calendar. But for me, I got to thinking about it and I thought, well, that's an easy way of just every 30 days writing down. Write down you're going to the gym. Write down you're going to do Orange Theory. Write down you're going to, write down that me and Marcy, I told you, let's start having lunch once a month. And if you start making that, you'll put it on your calendar and we will probably do it because you and I are both that way. If I made that schedule with you, like my arm has to be severed. Something has to be going on because I don't like to be that one that cancels.
So I have a very real life practical application for this that happened to me this week, and it's so embarrassing. So, a lot of successful people will say, if you don't write it down, it doesn't exist. And life is busy. I pretty much live by my calendar. So when you said that, I was like, that is such a good real life application. Jessica, my friend that I've talked about many times on this podcast, and I, we don't work out together anymore. So we don't really have a lot of time together. So we have to like make dates with each other to spend time together. So we make walking dates. We both love to walk on the treadmill and we talk and it's fabulous. And so we had texted a couple of weeks back and set a walking date for this past Friday at 1 p.m. I was like, that's perfect. I work at a gym. I was like, I'll work my 5 hours and then we'll walk and then I'll go home. Guess who forgot to put it on their calendar? Like, I don't know if I put it on a different date or whatever, because sometimes that happens. You don't pick the right date or whatever. It wasn't on my calendar. So I woke up that morning. I looked at my calendar. I had absolutely no appointments, nothing to do. I'm like, free day, and Jimmy decided that he was just going to work a half a day and be done because he's leading into vacation for Christmas. Obviously, he's like, I think today's going to be a half day. I was like, sweet. I'll go in early. I'll work early. I'll get off early, go home. About 12:45, I'm not at work anymore. And Jessica texts me and says, I just left the salon. I'm headed to walk. Are you at airport? ? And I'm like, oh shit. I forgot. I felt so sick to my stomach. I felt so awful. She was so sweet and understanding about it. She did not. I'm sure she got mad at me, but she didn't make me feel like a total complete piece of garbage. So I said all that to say that if you don't write it down, it doesn't exist. So it is so important to write those goals down, even if it's in the form of an appointment on a calendar. You have a goal to accomplish. You've made your action plan. There is no reason why you shouldn't just you can buy them at the Dollar Tree for $1. Go get you a cheap 12-month calendar that you just write your goals in, keep it on your phone. Everybody's got a smartphone these days and it has a calendar. Make those action items. And it's so much fun to check them off. I know I'm weird, and I know you're the same way. Mm-hmm. I love to complete a task. I'm going to check that box because I feel like.
Listen, I have already been doing a task and write it down just so I can mark it off.
I've done the same exact thing. What you talking about? I have done the same exact thing. It's like, oh, I did it. I'm going to get credit for it.
Yeah.
I blame those stupid gold stars that we used to get in school. I mean, it felt so good to get that gold star, they set us up like dogs and Pavlov's experiment, I guess. We have to
Yeah.
check those boxes.
Well, I'm still one of the old people too. We've discussed that. I will put appointments. I've gotten better about putting doctor's appointments in my phone and setting the alarm. I just started doing that this year. I literally still have a calendar in my purse. And usually when I would go to the doctor's office, I would pull that calendar out and I'm writing it. And I would go by that. I'm getting better about using my phone for that. But I still like my calendar on my desk because I'm not going to pull up my calendar in my phone every morning. To me, that's not in my face. This is. I mean, literally, when I sit down at this desk to put my makeup on, the calendar's in my face. I'm looking at it. So for me personally, I would really suggest trying it if you want to do something like that versus putting it in the phone because I don't feel like that's in my face every day. I would have
Yeah,
to
it
make a
just
point to go to the calendar app to look at it. And then it's like one day. When I'm looking at this, it's like I'm looking at the whole month at one time, like a snapshot of, okay, this is what I have going on. And honestly, oddly as it is, I feel like it helps keep me on task too with just everything being so busy in life. I have it right here. I know what's going on. I don't know.
yeah.
Try it.
Yeah, everybody's different. You got to find what works. And so the last little topic I have was celebrate your wins along the way. I think that's one good actionable step that you can take toward achieving your goals. Because, like we said, if you don't have some type of success, and I'm talking about like weekly, if you set you a weekly goal, just something that's super obtainable, and then decide in advance what you're going to reward yourself with or how you're going to celebrate your win. And then when you achieve that goal, celebrate yourself because that's going to be super motivational. And a lot of people say it's motivational junk food. It's like, and don't reward yourself with food if you're on a weight loss journey. That's a hard lesson I've had to learn in life. It's not really good for my shopping habits, but that's another episode. It's funny how when I go and prep and I can't eat that my Amazon bill goes up.
Ooh, we don't want to talk about that.
You got to get that dopamine somewhere. I'm just saying.
I go off on some wild. I have went from where I buy all kinds of leggings when I'm on prep to buying kitchen. I will be buying kitchen stuff at Williams Sonoma, and I can't even cook.
That's like people watching food shows.
Yes.
People talk about being in prep. I was like, I'm not going to tempt myself like that.
I do. Kara be like, what? I'll watch all of the shows like where they do the competitions, like food shows. Penning recipes. Carrie's like, why are you torture yourself? I said, I don't know. Just leave me alone. This is, I think for me, when I'm watching the show, I feel like, oh, when I get off prep, I'm going to make that and that. And I do learn stuff, like different foods or, different cooking techniques. I have learned some things from some of them shows. And I will pin all of this stuff, but of course I never cook it. And I say every time, oh, this time I'm going to. But then I go right back on to trying to be on point sometimes, and I never do. But I have done some of them. But
yeah, that's pretty common.
Yeah, I think that's just makes me feel like I'm going to cook all of that. And I don't know, helps with me not wanting to eat it. I don't know.
Yeah. You got to. So figure out what motivates you within your budget, within your means, and then celebrate yourself. So that's all the things I had to cover. Is there anything else that you had that you wanted to bring up as actionable ways to achieve goals for the new year?
I don't think so. I think I did have this wrote down, but it's not necessarily an actionable goal. But talking about your vision board, sometimes people keep those to themselves, and then sometimes we share with people. And I know I've told y'all before, I share everything with either Marcy or my spouse, Marcy, because we're here. But I do have a husband that cares about my goals, that does help support me with that. So like me showing him my vision board, I feel like sometimes when we do step out and share that with people, it holds you responsible for it. If I keep a goal to myself, it's easier to fail myself, and I say that by not hold myself accountable for it. If I share with you, oh, yes, I want to do Masters Olympia. I've put it in the universe. I've said it to you. I've said it to him. Now y'all are expecting it. For me, that means I got to do it. If I keep it to myself and I never told you that was in my mind and I don't do it, well, then who's going to say something to me about it?
Right. No harm, no foul.
Right. So I feel like sometimes if we share it with somebody, now I would definitely share it with somebody that's a good friend or somebody that's going to give you positive feedback. If you know that your spouse is not that person, don't share it with them, share it with a friend.
Right. Know your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. So just to recap, we have actionable ways to achieve your goals in 2025. You're going to visualize your success. Don't procrastinate. Take action every day. Break down larger goals into smaller, achievable goals so that you can celebrate your wins often, and then share your goals publicly with someone you trust for accountability. Does that about sum it up?
Sums it up.
All right, guys. Well, this is our last episode of the year, closing out 2024. And our next episode will be looking ahead into 2025. So until next time, y'all have a good week and dream big. Bye.
Bye, y'all.